Come on, god damn it! Use the power I've given you! Fight back! His spike-knuckled fist slammed into my bare face, sending me flying through the air and into a nearby tree. Despite the tree's time-hardened and hulking form, I went right through it as if it was merely cardboard. I landed roughly, first skidding over some rocks and then tumbling down a slope, coming to rest in a muddy depression several meters away. Entangled in vines and covered in earth and debris, I tossed and turned amidst the muck, terror making me momentarily ignorant of the pain of the thing's Herculean punch. The sound of the air above whipping in response to the sudden appearance of something only served to hasten my limbs. I managed to regain a semblance of physical coordination and untangle myself, and rising from the ditch quickly, scrambled towards a moss-covered mound, hiding behind it. I asserted the situation and quickly came to the grim realization there was simply nothing I could do. I'd have to either fight back and hope to somehow win, or let it kill me, and hope that the method of death would be quick and painless. The sun, high resting, brilliant, and unobscured, seemed to be working against me. There were no substantial shadows in which to hide. All were bathed in an almost mystifying radiance. My attacker needed only to fly past the mound to spot me, with panic rattling in my heart and stifling my breathing. I searched for something, a rock or log or natural club of some kind, one that I could use to strike the thing, even whilst knowing that, regardless of the object, I'd probably not do any significant damage. Earlier, I had watched it fall from the sky and land on solid rock, cratering the land in the process. A stone, no matter how big, probably wouldn't even scratch it, but still, I had to think of something. A sudden smell, a faint chemical scent of burning, saved me from being bisected by his ocular lasers. I leapt forward, landing flatly on the ground, as a beam of searing, hard light swept above me, just barely missing my scalp. Turning around, I saw the top half of the mound slide a few inches askew, the lingering incision molten, the moss thereon aflame. Hovering a few feet above the mound was the thing, an infernal star-sent nightmare who'd chosen me for his earthen opponent in some sadistic, interspecied bout. You can fight, or you can die, painfully. If you make me break a sweat, I'll end you quickly. You have my word. But if you bore me, I'll take my time. I'll make sure you know true cosmic antipathy. And then I'll eradicate every civilization on this planet. The fate of the world is in your hands. What are you gonna do? Adrenaline surged as my terror mounted. My muscles, supernaturally endowed with enhanced strength, contracted beneath my skin. My vision blurred as the blood pressure rose, and for a moment I feared that I'd have a heart attack before even throwing a punch. But then an errant breeze blew across my face, and with it came a smell. A whiff of grilled meats. I didn't know from where the smell had come, but knew by its intensity that there were people nearby. Relatively speaking, my sense of smell had no doubt been heightened, but even a radius of a few miles were close for two beings who could cross entire regions in a few moments. People nearby almost assuredly meant collateral damage. The recognition of this grim fact had a calming effect upon my body and nerves. It was no longer just my life on the line, or the lives of others following my promised demise. There were people here, now, who I needed to protect from the alien gladiator. Through conscious effort, I brought my rampant vitals under control and I rose to stand, considerably less afraid. The grass smoldered around me, and the combined heat of a laser-blasted area and the blazing sun drew sweat from my body, dampening my dirt-stained shirt. I must have looked ridiculous standing up at the 8-foot-tall, chitin-armored alien, challenging him whilst wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants. But in the moment I felt, for the first time in my life, powerful. Ready to defend myself against something markedly greater. Knowing that he'd just swat me down if I tried to engage him in the air, I began my assault with a ranged attack of my own. Utilizing my abdominal muscles and preternatural control of my digestive organs, I channeled a surge of stomach acid and bile from the depths of my gut, spewing it out of my mouth in a green, noxious torrent. His reaction was one of disgust and disbelief. The torrent struck him before he could even react. Probably stunned by the sheer vileness of the attack. He teetered in the air, and I let out another volley, this one even more acrid than the last. It struck him squarely, coating his monstrous insectoid body, and after a moment of mid-air writhing, he fell landward. My esophagus burned. My gums throbbed, but still, I readied myself for a third shot, knowing that it'd take more than some molten vomit to kill the thing. It had landed a few feet behind the split mound. Rounding this, I found the demon rolling around on the ground, slewing off sheets of my vomit. The stuff burned the grass wherever it landed, and the resultant smell was intolerably noxious. My eyes began to water, and my nose, already burning, felt as if it would fall off my face if I didn't filter the stench somehow. Quickly ripping off a part of my sleeve, I wrapped the fabric around my nose and again prepared to unleash another spray. But in the brief lapse of focus, the thing had displaced all the vomit. No doubt through some hypersped motion, and crossed the distance between us in an instant. With its monstrous strength, it promptly punched a hole through my stomach. Blood and bile gushed outward in a brownish admixture as the thing withdrew its fist from my belly. I fell to my knees as a wave of inexpressible agony overcame me, the sensation of having been abdominally penetrated unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. The alien stepped back and admired his work, cackling evilly as I knelt over from the pain and the partial destruction of my spinal cord. My vision went red and swam. The world seemed to distort and upheave around me. Some instinct heretofore unexperienced told me to push. That's the best way I can describe it, and I complied, hoping that it would stifle the thought of facing pain. And miraculously, it did. My hands, which I brought to my stomach in an effort to keep some of my guts held within my body, suddenly slipped against a flat surface. Looking down, I saw that my wound had closed. There was only skin. Freshly grown and slick, mostly with sweat. The only blood present being what had coated my hands and rubbed off. The thought, the instinct to push, had allowed me to rapidly regenerate. Good job. You've mastered one of the most basic abilities of your power set. The creature's blatantly sardonic tone infuriated me. Like a hot-headed child who'd just been knocked down by an older sibling, I stood, wiped away what I could of the blood and sweat, and charged at him. My fist connected squarely in his chest. I'd hoped to do to him what he'd done to me, put a hole in his body, only at his heart rather than his stomach. But upon contact with his thickly armored pecs, my hand merely imploded, the fingers collapsing into my palm in a mess of tendons and bone. I cried out before my voice could even carry to the treetops. His hand gripped my throat, and I was effortlessly lifted from the ground. Struggling against the strangulation, I tried to kick at him, but his other hand seized my left leg at the kneecap and squeezed. The joint shattered, and this time, a howl did escape me, the air pushing itself through my constricted throat. He laughed loudly and cruelly, his voice even rising to drown out my own. Dismissively, he then chucked me away like a piece of trash, and I fell face first onto the ground, not far from where I'd initially landed, following his super punch. My entire body throbbed. The twofold agonies of my injuries, despite my superhuman physical resilience. He was just so much stronger. He could inflict more damage than I could physically, or psychologically endure. Get up! Heal yourself, or I'll set this entire forest ablaze. His demonic voice, more than the sinister words themselves, gave me the motivation I needed. There was nothing but evil in those tones. An utter lack of humanity. It was the voice of one who had, elsewhere on other, remoter worlds, inflicted unfathomable terrors and obscenities upon helpless populaces. The same impulse of pushing I had used before, I autonomously and simultaneously repaired my crushed windpipe and my busted kneecap. The restoration brought its own measure of pain, but I gritted my teeth against it, and I rose to my feet. His jet-black body glistened in the sunlight, like some man-sized, futuristically armored bat. His face, saw-toothed and infinitely ghoulish, gazed at me with an expression of open malice, of satanic mirth. which filled me with rage, horror, and indignation all at once. And I would have abruptly and no doubt uselessly charged at him again, but a memory, providently recalled, stayed my hand, and I at last realized how I could defeat the superpowered incubus. Earlier in the day, I'd been hiking along a well-worn trail on a short jaunt not far from my home. Whilst rounding a bend in the trail, beside which was a steep cliff, its edge perilously unguarded, I spotted the creature falling from the upper atmosphere, trailing a plume of pitch-black smoke in its wake. It landed at the base of the cliff, cratering the land there, and after only a few moments, rose and flew up into the air, apparently having suffered no major injuries from its atmospheric entry. Had I been a little slower to the point in my hike, I would have been spared the subsequent endowment of power and violence. But during his ascent, he had spotted me standing there, dumbstruck, and proceeded to alter his course towards my direction, and thus began the terrifying ordeal. But one thing I hadn't consciously taken notice of, one thing I only recalled when standing face to face with that dark armored nightmare, was the nature of his flight, the mechanism by which it was achieved. It lacked wings. It seemed to accomplish flight by exerting some sort of telekinetic force upon itself, or just as supernaturally by manipulating gravity so that it suddenly became lighter than air in some fashion. Regardless, its body, or rather, two small, unshielding portions of its lower abdomen, would briefly glow upon the activation of the flight ability. Seeing this as it prepared to rise again and rain some new power of death upon me, I got the idea to clog those fortuitously unprotected orifices. Just as its savagely taloned feet left the earth, I again summoned from the depths of my bowels a potent surge of bile, and this time internally honing and sharpening the stream so it would spew forth precisely, rather than in great torrential showers. Using my tongue as a divider, the flesh of it naturally impervious to the acidic effects, I split the stream in two, sending dual blasts towards each of the orange-tinged holes in the creature's body. The stream struck true, and the fiend cried out, shocked and agonized. He was immediately grounded. Figuratively, de-winged. I let off the oral assault just as I began to feel woozy, probably from extorting too much of my gastrointestinal energies. The creature writhed on the ground, my bile burning away at its insides. I watched appalled and awed as his chitinous armor expanded, the flesh beneath swelling and inflaming. A moment later, in a great shower of bits and iridescent blood, the thing exploded. Bile, blood, and black flesh glistened in the radiance of the now midday sun. I took in the grisly scene as one gazing upon the twinkling surface of a calm lake. I had somehow beaten the creature in its own gladiatorial game. I knew that I couldn't simply let the foul remains of that extraterrestrial asshole linger. I mean, who knows what effects the offal might have on the environment, or the bolder carrion animals. So with one final, all-enveloping spew, I doused the whole area in my acrid bile, melting all evidence of the creature's heinous existence. Toxic smoke rose from the dissolving gore, blackening the surrounding foliage, stinging my eyes as I turned and left. Superpowers were forced upon me, and using them, I fought a powerful alien horror, and won. The Earth is safe, I suppose. For now. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and as always, I want to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video. If you guys are interested in finding new books from authors that you hear of on this channel, please pay attention to the links in the description down below. For one, you can always get a hold of my books, which are the Creepypasta Collections Volume 1 and Volume 2, but also from a bunch of my other friends, such as Jack Townsend, where Tales from the Gas Station Volume 4 is currently available. You can find a link in the description, as well as a link to all of my audiobooks I've done for Volumes 1 through 3. And yes, trust me, I'm going to be working on 4. It's just going to take me a while. And as always, I want to give a very big thank you to everybody who is on my Patreon. That means everybody. Everyone who is from the $1 tier all the way up to the, God, why do you pledge that much tier? But I especially want to give a big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stephanie Butler, Bobby Karman, Tristan Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, Kyle Reznak, Happy Birthday Ollie Whale, David Martin, scare-ington, the unkempt, Angelus, Spanky, Snootchie bootchies, Autistic Spidey, phruty, Seclude, Lupita Galvan, That Creepy Chick, Tyler Fletcher, Rebecca Harper, Merxinum, Red Shadow Cat, Xavier the Cheyenne, Demix, Sean Cadieu-baker, 6 Gay Rats in a Trenchcoat, Turtleman, Rob Likes Sharp Things, Chaos Arts, Cryolinian, Zachary Gruffius, Lord Life's Best, Goreng Trimagacy, Maria Walker, Pain Gravy, Crazy Kid, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Aka Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Matt Bach, Naughty Devil, Voice of Sands, Coffee Zombie, Matthew McNeese, Shelly J, Jeremy H, Reltazol, Ficomel, Nana, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Tali Sue, William King, Darth Miver, Michael Ortiz, Satanic Aries, Nessie, Bardo Hawk 764, Lambda M98, Harley, Sashi Suzaku, Croconut 509, Kaylee Ambrose, Suji Campbell, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Nicholas Zicardi, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Benjamin Welvart, Kiri the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. As always, you guys are the MVPs. Everybody who's on that list, everybody who's on that Patreon, everybody who's in the description, thank you so much. And if you'd like to join this list of names that I horribly mispronounce, head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. And as always, everyone, sweet dreams.